How you doing today? Welcome to my photo editing live stream where we can submit your images before the stream starts and I edit them here for you live using DxO Photolab 8. The intent being to show you the tools of DxO Photolab 8, the output that you get, and I think it's ideal to edit images using yours rather than mine to demonstrate the capabilities and workflow that I have for Photolab. And my workflow can be different from yours, but generally speaking, during the edits, I'll walk you through my thought process and why I'm using tools I use or how to use the tools more likely. And don't take anything I do here as a critique on your photograph. It's all of the changes I make and edits are purely subjective on my part in terms of any changes I might make to it. And I am an affiliate for DxO, so if you haven't tried DxO, I have downloads below to free trials as well as a discount code for 15% off for new customers. So if you haven't bought any DxO products in the past, you can apply this discount code uh, to get that discount. And uh, just a heads up, I'm gonna do another special edition photo editing stream about the DxO Photolab products on Monday. So stay tuned for that. And but for now, we're gonna do our normal weekly Friday streams where I edit your images. So I see a lot of people here, and the format's changed a little bit. If you've watched any of my previous streams, I'm going to pause every two or three edits and answer any questions you might have in the chat section. Uh, about any of the tools I used or any of the settings, so that if it's not clear what I was doing, or you want to understand more about a particular tool, don't hesitate to ask. I'm always here to help, and that's the main reason for this stream is to help you use Photolab 8, to its maximum potential. So I just need to make a couple adjustments, and then we'll get started into the streams. Oh, 1 second. Why am I? Well, doesn't matter. Okay, move this over here, and let's see if I can share my screen. I have to make so many. I make the screen larger before the stream starts so that you can see what I'm editing and the tools I'm using. So I always have to make some adjustments to the fonts and my layout. Okay, I think we're ready. So let's see if this works. All right, very good. So first one we have here looks like from William. We have some aurora uh, landscape shot here, and there's definitely a fisheye. So yes, 8mm fisheye. And the first thing I always do is I apply basic preset. DxO has its own down here. It's called DxO Standard. So I've tweaked that just a little bit. But basically what it does is applies the optical corrections. In this case, it corrects the fisheye distortion and sharpening and denoising. The only tweaks I added were I added the chromatic aberration and purple fringing to the standard. Uh, but other than that, it's pretty much the same. Okay, and the question is, with fisheye lenses that have the optics module built in so that it corrects for the distortion, you can turn that on and off. So if you prefer the fisheye look, which, it's kind of fun time to time, I wouldn't do every shot in fisheye, but if you sprinkle your portfolio with some fisheye shots, particularly for event photography, uh, it can be it can be fun. So you would just go over here to this tab here, and you can turn that on and off. So this doesn't affect really the dynamic sharpening that DxO does to make corrections for for the lens and camera combination. It only corrects for the distortion. And for this shot, I think we're okay with rectilinear shot. And then I'll just make a slight correction to the horizon. And this is my workflow. I always look at the composition first, and then I consider the lighting and exposure of the image, uh, and then white balance potentially, before I start doing any sort of local adjustments or global adjustments to individual areas of the image. So I'm just going to straighten this a bit, and we have this. Okay, so it looks like we have a shooting star up here, which is always nice to get near shots. And it's just slightly out of focus from what I can see here. So I'm going to try and make that look a little sharper by using the unsharp mask tool. I'm just thinking ahead a little bit. Uh, Let me go over to the exposure tools here and just crank this up and see what I can recover down here. I think we're okay. I think I can recover some of this because there is a nice glow right here on the left side of this lake, and just a tiny bit of glow here on the landscape. So let's do a global adjustment on this one. Normally, I would do local adjustments. I rarely go right to the exposure adjustments, but in this case, the entire scene is pretty dark, so I can just raise the exposure a bit. And astrophotography shots like this is like a wide field astro shot. Uh, you want to maintain the blacks in the sky. So I will go back and do some local adjustments to do that, but I just want to get a baseline exposure first, where I guess I'm kind of looking at the aurora here. I want it to be sort of the brightness about right. And I think that looks good. So we can see here on the histogram, well, not with my big head there, but I'm looking at the greens here, and I have them right at about middle gray. And then the rest of the histogram, I'm not too worried about at this point. So with landscape shots, I do look at the histogram more often than other types of shots, but generally, histogram I don't use a lot, but time to time. Particularly with this shot, it's easy because we have very strong greens here, and it's easy to see the greens in the histogram. Okay, so Clearview is a great tool for astrophotography shots. It really brings out the details and contrast in a landscape scene. So Clearview is really good for landscapes in general. I wouldn't use it like where it's in a very foggy type scene unless you want to cut through the fog, to maintain the ambience of a foggy scene. But for astrophotography, Clearview is a great tool. So I'm just going to adjust that to taste here. I think that looks good. And let's see if we can darken the sky a bit more, the blacks in particular. And I'm just going to use a control point here, and we'll put one over here, right in here, maybe one right there, a little smaller one. Yeah, I don't think I can keep this one. Let's not keep that one. There's a little bit too much green bleeding in. So the control points can be adjusted. The masking can be adjusted either by luminance. So I'm gonna just give a little bit here. I typically only do about between 5 and 10 because I want it to look natural. I want to have a natural feathering in terms of luminance. And that's basically the brightness, right? So I'm telling it, since I selected a dark point, only look at the darker points. If I slide this all the way over, you can see it's narrowing the mask even more. But I do want it to spread just a bit here. Again, I want to keep it looking as natural as possible. And chroma is color, so I'm avoiding the greens here. If I get even more selective, you can see it's moving away from the greens. So I'm just spending a little time here on this because this is a good example of showing how the masking works. Because it's not so obvious sometimes on other types of images where the exposure and colors are a little bit more spread out or diverse. Okay, I think that's a good mix there. So I'm gonna bring this in a little bit because the landscapes are very dark as well. So I'm gonna keep this off of the landscapes. I don't want to darken the landscapes. And also take note that sometimes the masking does spread a tiny bit beyond the circle here that you see. So just be aware of that. In this case, it shouldn't be spreading too much because we have very distinct differences. So here I'm just going to pull on the blacks and just make those blacks as dark as I can without losing, say, details in the sky. And I may even go directly to we have a tone curve down here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clip some of the black areas even more, just a bit. No, that might affect the landscape. So yeah, I don't think I can do that. Because I want to brighten these landscapes, but I don't want to clip them. Yeah, sorry. That's not going to work. I'm going to have to stick with local control points. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and push the highlights. It's probably won't have much effect, but on these control points, I want to make the stars a little brighter, just introduce a little contrast. We're going to push the clear view a little bit again, and also the micro contrast. See if we can bring out just a few more stars. I think right about there looks good. And again, I'm doing this all to taste. All right, now on the landscape, uh, there's very little digital data there, digital image data there for us to work with. So any adjustments I do here, let me just use a brush. Uh, Maybe a smaller brush. And I'm going to reduce the flow and opacity just so I don't affect it too much. But I just want to bring out, let me start over. I'm not looking at the light. The light is kind of mostly right in here. So I'm going to go right in there and just, I'm going to, sorry, I'm going to do a separate one on this side. We'll just add a little bit there. So let's just do a linear push on the exposure and bring some of that out. And then from here, I'm going to push the highlights and then bring up the midtones. Now the shadows. Okay. And just a touch on the blacks there. And there's a little bit of bleed here, so I'm going to hit the Alt key and just erase this where I kind of went over a little bit, especially right here. I kind of like how it looks there. Okay. Uh, and let's soften this more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a huge feather and just kind of soften it right around the edges, just to smooth that out a bit. Okay. I think that's good. And then I'm going to make a new brush. And on this side, I'm going to do kind of the same thing, but just less. I just want to get a little hint of some landscape there and texture. I'll put a little more in the front. Okay, I think that looks good. I still have a little bit of bleed on this side. Let me see if I can get rid of that. Get rid of that one. All right, that looks good. Now the water, I just want to exaggerate the glow here that I'm seeing on the lake. So I think I'll just use another control point, and let's do 2 spots there and there. And we're going to tighten up the chroma and the luma. So I want to get the masking off of the landscape. So I might have to get a little tighter in this case with the masking. Okay, I think that's good. Now let's um let's just try a slight push in the highlights and see how that looks. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let's add some clear view. All right, very good. Um, let's see what your white balance is set to. I should have looked at that first. White balance is fine. Sometimes I just put it to daylight for astro shots, but I think straight out of camera, uh, white balance looks good. But typically astro shots, I'll just do daylight. But it looks like the camera did a good job as shots, so we'll leave it there. All right. There's still a little bit more bleed here than I like, so I'm going to go ahead and see if I can correct that just a bit more. So let me go back to my brush tool, hit the Alt key. You can also do it directly here. There's an eraser icon there, but I'm just going to pull a little bit off in here. Yeah, I think that's good. I like the little bit of bleed there, but not too much. All right, now let me go back to my global adjustments, and I'm going to pull the blacks directly. No, that doesn't work. What I'm trying to do is create a little more contrast here in the water, so I'm going to use a control line and just go right to about here. And I'm going to move the dropper to the darkest part. And let's tighten up the luma and chroma, and then just do a pull on the blacks. And I'm going to bring this up just a tiny bit. All right, good. Okay, so let me just do a quick before and after just to get a feel for where I'm at. All right, now I mentioned the stars were, the shot is just a little out of focus. I imagine it tried to focus on the aurora and then it, kind of under, you know, uh, anyway, misfocus on the stars. So let me let me try that with an unsharp mask. I think if I go right in here and pick, let's see if I can get a white point and then tighten up the luminosity mask here. That's tough. That's not too bad. Okay, let me go down here and just crank up the micro contrast a bit. And I don't think sharpening will do much. We'll do that. I'm gonna move this up to about here. All right. And looking for any other tool here that might help. Maybe a tad more clear view. How about regular contrast? That's helping a little bit. Now, let me try also unsharp mask. So to see the effects of the unsharp mask, you have to zoom in to about 75%. So you see, okay, if I back out, you'll see a little icon here that shows, you know, basically it just means you can't see the effect. But if I zoom in, that will go away. And now I can see the effects of the unsharp mask. I'm going to need a pretty big radius to try to make those stars a bit sharper. But I have to be careful not to over sharpen the rest of the image. See what this does. Back that off. And we'll set the threshold, which is just going to focus on the edges. Okay. Yeah, that's not bad. Right in there. Let me zoom in and see. Okay, now I'm going to get my loop tool and see, because I don't want to exaggerate the noise too much. Yeah, right in there looks good. All right. Okay, I think I'm done. So let me export this and we'll go to the same original folder, sRGB. All right, that looks good. And then we'll do a side by side. Okay. Ooh. First one always takes a little while. I don't know why. Sometimes when I start editing, the the noise reduction takes a little longer. Usually it's like 5 or 10 seconds for me, but okay, it's done now. So let me reset and all right, there you have it. So what I might do is now that I'm looking at this exported image, there's just so much noise in here and the noise reduction is working a little too hard. I think because I did too much unsharp mask because this looks a little muddy here versus this is a little smoother. So I think what I'll do, let me let me go back. Let me go back into editing here. Yeah, I don't think it's the unsharp mask. I think what I might do is let's back off this one control line, this one down here. I think I'll just get rid of this control line. Uh, and then let's see. The clear view is also probably causing a little bit of that muddiness. Where is that? That's in here. Just gonna back that off a bit. Then let's just pull the blacks in manually. Actually, I might be able to just go right into using the tone curve and just clipping the blacks down. Hmm. Okay, and then over here, I'm going to dial back. Let me see. I'm going to try and dial back the luminance noise reduction a bit. Maybe not. Yeah, I need to back it off just a little bit, just to keep it a little natural. All right, let's export this, and then I'll definitely stop here. It's very hard to see probably in the stream the things I'm trying to correct at this point. But I'm seeing a little bit of muddiness because the image is really noisy and out of focus, and uh, and so, it's an astro shot, and the main problem is out of focus. Okay, so let's see. Compare here, reset, and do a side by side. Okay, yeah, that didn't help a whole lot. I'm just getting too much kind of muddiness in here. Let me look at the original real quick. Maybe it's there and I'm just trying to correct something that I can't correct. Yeah, there are a couple of ripples here. So, oh, I see. You're right on the shoreline. That's why there are some very, very minor ripples here. Okay. So I don't need to correct for that as hard as I was trying. But there's my edit. So Yes. Excuse me. So sorry if you guys heard that. Okay. So what I try to do is I try to get the contrast in the sky, make them as black as possible. Uh, but with the aurora here, it's hard to do that because the aurora is kind of spread across the entire sky. But I did bring out the stars more, and I like the glow that I saw in the lake. The only thing that I would need to spend some time with is right down in here. Is I'm trying to distinguish if these are denoising artifacts or there's actually some ripples in the water here. But I feel like this is more of a denoising artifact, but I can see them over here is the problem. So, yeah, it's a tough call. But in any case, I think this looks pretty good. And there's a very slight hint here in the landscape of some lighting, a little bit more on the left side than the right. Well, that makes sense now that I'm looking at it. But yeah, it's a cool image. So thanks, William, for sending that in. Let's go to the next one. And this one is, oops, I'm sorry. One second. This one is just a row of three ducks here, some mallards, always looking happy. Beautiful day, probably hot. uh, so this is interesting compositionally. I like this division between the land and the water, and these three ducks almost on the edge. It'd been nicer if they were standing closer to the edge. But let me go with a tighter crop. Let's try a 3 by 2. And then I'll keep this corner down here on the left. and the bottom left and the bottom right, I'm sorry. And then let's give the ducks a little bit on the off center here. I want to make sure I don't keep too much up here though. Maybe a 16 by 9. I think that works a little better. It'd be nice if I could have split this a little bit better this way. Let me try 5 by 4. Yeah, that's worse. I'll stay with a 16 by 9. Just give the ducks a little bit of framing. So I'm just trying to frame the ducks a little bit using the lines that are in the scene. I think that'll work. Okay. Uh, White balance is fine. Lighting, we need to do, I'm just going to go right into a control line. And we need to darken this grass. So I'll start here. And then let's darken the cement. I'll probably have to do that with a control line because, well, I'm sorry, control point. Let me try a control line real quick. If I use a control line, I put the dropper on here and tighten up the Luma mask and the chroma. Yeah, that's what I was afraid of. The ducks are still getting affected here, but I might be able to go back and fix them locally. But let's just see if we can temper some of the cement. It's a little heavy, but yeah. Let me Can't do it too much without it looking a little unnatural. Uh, all right, that's good. And then the water, we can do another control line. We'll start about here. And just bleed to about there. And let's do a clear view and a pull on the blacks. Whoops, I'm sorry. Here we are, blacks. Let's push the midtones and highlights a bit just to maintain some of the speculars in the water. And then just shift it a little bit cooler. Maybe add actually a little bit of green. Okay. I'm just moving the drop around to see what I like best. I think right there looks good. Okay. Now, overall, the exposure is darker. I mean, it's feathered in different places, but I want to bring out the colors and the brightness of the ducks themselves. So I'm just going to use a control point and just use very tight control points. Tighten up the mask a bit. And just do a linear push there. maybe a little bit of warmth. Well, I try to do the white balance. I try not to push more than 500 Kelvin. So I'm going to go there. And I apply my optical corrections. Crap, I didn't apply my preset first. I'll just do it manually. So we'll do that, 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 this, then that. Okay. Um, Let me go back to my local control point. Let's try pushing the shadows a tiny bit there. A little bit more of a linear push. Okay. Pull it back. All right, let's add a vignette. So I'm going to do it manually using a control point. So let's do that, and then I'll invert it and set the chroma and lumi down to 0. This is how you add a vignette, and then just pull the exposure in a bit. Okay. Debating if this crop is the right crop, though. Let me just look at a square crop and see what happens. I might like this better. Yeah, I kind of like this better. The framing idea didn't work out too well. If we go back and look at the 16 by 9, I was trying to split the scene. I don't know. I like this too. I think I'll stick with this. So let's export this. The square crop gives us a little more detail on the ducks, but I kind of like the composition of this sort of 50-50 split between the grass and the water. And then the ducks are just kind of separating it even more. So we'll do that, do a side by side. Okay, so here's the original on the right, and then here's my edit. So basically, I just tried to, if you look carefully, you can see that the luminance on the ducks is roughly about the same between the two images, just a little more contrast. But then the scene overall, with the control lines, the control points, and the vignette, I think separates the ducks a little bit more without losing sort of this idea I was going with of splitting the water and the land 50-50. So if we do just sort of a split this way, I think that looks pretty good. And we got nice detail on the ducks and everything. I could even come in this, I could have probably cropped in this close and still got the 50-50 split, it looks like. That may have been a better way to go. Something, something like that. But okay, very nice. Uh, let's see. Go to the next one here. And this one is from Larry. And we'll apply basic preset. And okay. Uh, Let me see what perspective does. Not so much. I don't think we need it here, but it is just slightly off. We have this big rock here. What is this? A cactus. So I think what I'll do compositionally, I like what's going on right here. The edges and the top and the building, the building is cut off here anyway on the right, so we're not getting a feel for the overall scale of this building. So what I'm going to focus on are the smaller details in front of the building. And the other thing with buildings, I don't really see the front entrance. This might be it here, or one entrance of many, but it doesn't feel like it's the front entrance. This feels like it's something off to the side. So in this scenario, it's okay to crop out a lot of the building. We don't really need it because there's no context of the, like I said, the front entrance is always kind of the most important thing in a building. And since that's not here, the building acts more like a backdrop than it does the focus of uh, the story here, so to speak. I think what's really interesting is all these little cactuses and plants here in front of the building on these giant boulders. The stone wall is very interesting. And then, even if we crop in very tight, we'll still capture a lot of the architectural cues that this building has to offer. We don't need it all. So I'm just going to probably do a square crop here. And I don't even need the sky that much. I want to try to balance it so that the top and bottom feel weighted properly. Because this giant rock here is very, very heavy. See, our lines are straight. It's a little bit of a tilt. Let me fix that. Just need a little bit of a tilt. Maybe perspective will be good here. Yeah. Then, okay, let's do that. Let me see how that looks. Nope. We need a 4 by or 5 by 4. That's a little better. Okay, I think I'll go with this. All right, now the sky is definitely overexposed, but the front of the building is nicely exposed. So I'm going to see if I can just bring some of the sky back in. And look, tighten up the luma mask a bit. Just pull the highlights. Try some clear view. Pull the highlights in. I think that's the best we're going to get there. Okay, that's fine. And then the building, I think we're okay. I just want to maybe let me just fix some of these windows to get them a little bit darker. Let me use clear view. Okay. Maybe even that window could use a little clear view. Let me see. Yeah, a little bit less reflective. All right, now I'm just trying to get the overall exposure to kind of balance and then highlight areas that I found interesting. So we need a little more directional light too, because it's Clearly, it's under a cloud right now, but the light looks like it's coming in right here, almost straight overhead. All right, so let's try this plant, this cactus, this brush here, this bush, this this bush over here, and there's a little bit of a tree here. I may not be able to do that one as well as this because it just overlaps a little bit too much. So let's push the highlights here and see what we get. Okay, now let's try the midtones. All right, and then a little bit in the shadows. And then I'm gonna push the vibrancy to see if I can separate the colors a little bit more. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Let's push the saturation a bit. Uh, that's about right. Okay. All right, that looks good. How about the highlights again? Maybe a little more mid-tone. All right, now I want to bring out a little bit of the texture of the rock here on the front. Add a little bit of light over here, maybe. So let me just add a little bit more light. Let me finish with just sort of the overall exposure. I'm just going to do a very subtle push there. And then a little bit more on the highlights. A little bit here. That one doesn't look right. Uh, just a tiny bit in here. Maybe the whole side of this building. Yeah, that looks good. That's better. Because when I did just the rock, it didn't look right. Do a slight push in the midtones and maybe give it a little bit of warmth. Maybe just, again, about 500 Kelvin. Let me get rid of that one. I'm going to tighten it up just a bit on the chroma. Okay. Let's see if I can exaggerate the sort of these reds and oranges up here. Just use a very simple brush for this. Okay. And we'll go down here to the reds. We'll spread this a bit and push the saturation. Okay, that looks good. A little bit more. I think these windows are a bit too blue. So let me warm those up a bit. Ooh, that doesn't look right. Maybe just desaturate. Yeah, that's better. And then pull the blacks a little bit. All right, let me see where we're at. Oh, okay, right here. Let's do another control point, and we'll keep this kind of tight in here. And I'm going to do some micro contrast, maybe some clear view, pull on the blacks, and maybe do the same for let's do a control line. Yeah. All right, that's definitely has more detail. I don't need that one. And you'll see that I have a control line and control point using the same exact settings. So you can add two. I don't know if you can add three. I never tried, but you can add two control lines to use the same masking, same exposure settings, etc. I think that's working. I just want this right side. Let me go back to the right side of the building. Just have a little more punch. Okay. One last thing I might experiment with here is use the clone tool, crank up the opacity. I'm going to clone a little bit of this sky here. Oops. I'm going to select here. That's too big. But I think that works. I just don't. Let me get a little smaller brush. I just want to add some more blue sky in the clouds. Select over here, maybe. Let's select down here this time. Okay. Oh, that doesn't look good. Let's select up here. Okay, that's shoot. I'm seeing a little bit of duplicate. Let me try this side. All right, good enough. All right, let me export this, and we'll do a side by side. Whoops, I hit the wrong button. Sorry. Reset, reset. Okay, so here's the original on the left, or I'm sorry, on the right. This is my edit here. Yeah, this image on the right, uh, really it seems like it's about the boulders and sort of the cactuses and other brush growing on the rocks. So the building is kind of irrelevant. It's more of a backdrop. Uh, so that's the direction I tried to go with this image. It's not perfect. I'd have to think about this composition more, but this is in the general direction I would go with this image is focusing on just this rock and then using everything else in the background to just be part of the background. Oops. So if I do it this way, I think the main thing is this image is very, very flat down here because it's soft lighting. So the main thing I tried to do was to You can see how this side's a little brighter, the colors are a little richer, and there's more texture. So I just tried to bring out the texture and contrast in the foreground. And then, of course, the sky was so flat, mostly white. An easy trick, rather than doing sky replacement or something like that, is just clone out parts of the sky if it's there and add it to the scene so it looks a little more interesting. And you just do that with the healing brush tool right here and use clone. All right, so let me take that was from Larry. Let me just take a couple minutes and look at the chat, see if you guys have any questions. So I'm going to move this over. And good morning. Good morning, Kevin. Good to see you. And good to see you, Bam. Samsam. I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce that correctly. From the Faroe Islands. Wow. And John follows. Always good to see you. Paul, very good to see you. And this is Ish from Arizona. Very good. Nice to see you here. And RTFM. Paul, happy Friday. That's right. It is Friday. Wow. And good morning, Obadi. And I prefer raw. That's why I don't defish. Okay. And it's a shooting star at the top. Yes. Very nice. It's always nice to get those. And I just went rectilinear, but yeah, I think the fisheye would have been just as equally as nice. And Paul says, I'm editing here as you are doing your shots too. Okay, cool. And Anthony just emailed you a raw photo of a common elder duck. Please edit it. Okay, I'll try and get to it. Let me see if I got it in. It's easier if you submit it to the link, but uh, yeah, you know, let me see. Wow, there's three new images that came in. And what was it you said you sent in? It was a duck taken at ISO. Yeah, I didn't get the email. So try and submit it using the link in the description of this. And it says, when photographing ducks last Sunday, there were high winds. I probably wasn't close enough when photographing, concerned about spooking the ducks. Yeah, they can be flighty sometimes. And duck photo taken at ISO. Yep, we'll see the EXIF data. Wow, 1/5000th though. Probably didn't need to be that high. Not for ducks normally. And Eric, good to see you. And how's that like a Q3, man? I'm jealous. And when photographing, I was lying down on the beach. When photographing, calming either to help me stabilize the lens. Yep, makes sense. And hi, Rob, when photographing birds that are near and in the water, do you use a polarizing filter on your lens? I have not yet bought any. No, I don't use a polarizer. Uh, Not for birding because typically a polarizer is going to cut one stop of light at a minimum. And I need as much light as I can into the lens. Now, if it's very bright or it's like a lot of snow, then yeah, polarizer will be fine because you're always going to have too much light typically, right? When it's snowy or it's a really, really bright day with highly reflective water, then definitely I would try using polarizer. But I don't run into taking shots like that too often, and if I do, I tend to not try to take them because usually it's a very highly backlit scene to begin with, and the dark whatever the subject is in the foreground is going to be almost silhouette. And if it's the other way around, where the light is behind me, um, then typically I don't have problems with contrast and reflectivity. So polarizer is not quite as necessary typically, but it does kind of make sense to use a polarizer in certain conditions. But generally, I wouldn't use it. And nice transformation with the details. And I see Shri is here. Good to see you. Uh, and happy Friday, friends of Green K. Okay. And Paul's asking, are these edits from last week when you had problems? I still have long exposure, not sure if I need to resubmit. I didn't I didn't see your photo. Go ahead and resubmit it. If I haven't edited it yet, I will edit it today. And hello, Rob. Always a pleasure to see edit your pictures. Oh, thanks. Thanks. I mean, I'm by no means, the best editor ever, right? Of course, I'm far from it, but it's fun to edit the pictures, and hopefully we get some ideas. And it's primarily about seeing the tools and answering questions. And Paul Crisp is here. Good to see you. John Paulos. It's like my thing just jumped up. Uh, okay, a blue filter is good for water photography. Depends. Not all water is blue, but I wouldn't use a blue filter. If you're talking about for black and white film or black and white film, if you're talking about a regular digital color camera, don't use any color filters. That'll mess up the colors completely. And it's me volunteering at Green K. I'm here every Friday morning. Okay. Not familiar with Green K, but all right, so let's get back to the editing and see if I can. I need to rearrange my screens again. All right, so let's see. We have one here from Lloyd. Oops, my bad. I didn't mean to hit that button. We have this. This is a really cool shot. So let's apply basic preset. And okay, so what I like about this shot, this is, gosh, I like a lot of things about this shot. Uh, just the scale of it. Were you zoomed in all the way to 600? Wow, so you're pretty far away. But I like this perspective. We don't need to see every detail and hair on the tiger. I think I'd like to capture the entire scene here to tell the story of this tiger just out in the middle of this water. I kind of like that. So I'm gonna get rid of some of the foreground. I'm gonna do a wide crop. Let's just try with a 16 by 9 first. How about a 16 by 7? Mm, it's okay. Go back to 16 by 9. Yeah, I like this. I think this is a good balance. Now, the tiger being front and center is let's just let's just move him a little bit over to the right side. Just get him a little off center. That looks great. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little light to the front of the tiger and then separate the lighting here in the brush and maybe just pull the brightness down a little on the background and see if I can clean up the water a little bit because it's a little busy and enhance the reflectivity here. So I think that's what I'll do. Exposure wise overall is fine. You just need to kind of let's tighten up the chroma. You just want to bring out just a little bit on the front of this tiger. Let's just do a linear push and add a little warmth. Oops. Let's do about 58. Yeah, a little bit, 57. Okay. I may come back to this tiger again. Maybe just add one more here. Okay. All right. Now another control point for this kind of leafy area. Let's just push the highlights and add a little bit of warmth. Again, just 200 or 300. Yeah, right about there, about 500 Kelvin. And just push a little bit of light into some spots there. And then let's add another control point, but let's pull the blacks in a bit. I'm going to tighten up the mask on the Luma. Maybe a little bit there. Let's just try pulling the blacks in a bit. Good. And now I want to just accentuate some of the color. Let me add one more. I think I can exaggerate this a bit more. Let's try the midtones. Push the highlights a bit more. And just want to bring out a little bit more catch lights here and there. I have to give a little touch on the shadows. Okay, good. And then I like these little hints of brown in here. So I think for those, I think I'll just touch it here. Not sure what to do there. Maybe micro contrast. Yeah, that looks good. We'll just touch it here and there. Not that one. Let's try over here. No, I think it's just this one area right in here. Let me get rid of this one. It's just this one area that I want to emphasize a bit. It's actually a little bit in here too. Yeah, I like that one and that one. All right, good. Now the water, I'll probably have to do maybe just a brush. Let me try. Let me try this. Just bring this in, pull the blacks. And let's push the highlights a bit. Some micro contrast or just regular? Yeah, just a little bit of both, maybe. I think I need to do a separate brush for uh in here. This water here is, yeah, this water in the very front is going to be a problem. Uh, I'm not sure what I can do. There's a lot of aberrations in here. Let me loop in on this. Just see if I can max out. Okay. I think that's the best I can do there. Okay, I want to bring out, what are these? These are rocks, I think. I'm going to bring out the rocks a little bit. So I'll use some control points with very tight chroma mask. Okay, and let's just try some micro contrast. Okay, I'm gonna push on the highlights. Let's try a little bit on the midtones and a push on the shadows. Oops, too much. Just a touch. Yeah, right there. Okay, I think I can warm up the grass a little more. Let me go back to that control point. It's that one. Just a little bit more. So I'm going over 500 Kelvin. I'm probably closer to 700. A little less green. All right. I'm gonna use a control line for the foreground. Let's drag that in there. Just pull the blacks in. Okay, this water, I gotta think of what I'm gonna do because it is really highlighty. So a little bit of tightening on the luma. I know these are clipped, but I don't know if I can temper some of that. It's a little tempered, but that's enough. Not that much. If I go the other way. No, we'll just temper them a little bit. Okay. All right. Overall, the color, I think we need to warm up the overall image because it does feel a little cloudy. Maybe about there. All right, let's see where we're at. Okay, I'm losing a little bit too much right in here. So I'm going to, let's go back to the control point for the blacks and not push those so much. Bring back some of the highlights and midtones. All right. All right, good. Okay, this tiger, I want it to stand out a little more. So I'm thinking I have control points on him already. Let's do that. Let's give a little vibrancy and saturation. Okay, back it off a little bit. And I'm gonna go to the greens. The greens are just not right here. See where we're at. What if I warm them up just a bit? No. Yeah, I think we're okay. Hmm. Maybe it's this green right in here, but those are fine. Let's shift it just a little bit. All right, I'm done. So let's export this. Once that's exported, we'll do a side by side. So yeah, it's basically I just brought the contrast out. I uh I like the lion being just almost in the center. I really like the landscape back here on the top. I lost that. But to maintain, I think the 16 by 9 or was the 16 by 7 crop, I think works best for this image and tells the whole story about this lion being in the middle of this water. I think that looks pretty good. So let's do just sort of a slider. And I think that looks good. So that's the before. And just to get really close, let's see. I mean, there's not a lot of pixels on this tiger, but I'm just curious how much detail did we pull out? Okay, a little bit. A little bit. Certainly killed the noise on him. Well, we didn't get too much detail back. I could add a little micro contrast to kind of give it a little more detail, but we're not cropping in that tight, so it doesn't matter. Uh, we're talking about um, a pretty wide frame overall, right? So it's okay. I don't need to work that hard on it. Okay, let's see. Yeah, that was oh, I didn't download the optics module. Dang it. I forget to do that sometimes. Let me download the optics module. That might bring out a little more detail. Okay, so let's go back to my edit and just re-export this. Let's see, the optics module apply, distortion, crop. Okay, let's export this. See if that improved the sharpening. I did use noise reduction on the Tiger. So I'm gonna I just exported it again. Let's just see what it looks like now. It's very difficult to tell in the stream, so I'll just have to tell you verbally what I'm seeing. It's a little better. Yeah, it's a little better. I mean, this is probably like less than 1 megapixel of data here. So that's why we're not getting all the detail, but I think it came out pretty good considering how much noise was there before. You can almost make out the whiskers here, just barely. If you squint, you can see some whiskers. But yeah, so that's a lot better. The optics module helped. Like I said, you may not be able to see it on the stream here, but the optics module definitely made a difference. So that's the new image. That's the before. Okay, we'll go to the next one. This is from Paul. Okay, this one is really overexposed. So we're definitely gonna have to work on that. So let me apply a basic preset, which includes optical corrections and noise reduction. I'm gonna try well, first let me make sure I got the optics modules. Yeah, we're good. So we're gonna try perspective. Yeah, that's better. That's better. It was just a little off and a slight um, tilt on the horizon. And that's not tilting. Oh, there we go. That's why it was off. All right. Okay, we're okay now. And I don't think I can save these highlights, but let me just pull the exposure to see what's not going to be saved. So the highlights right here and a little bit here are gone. So we're going to have to work with that. They look okay here and here. So we can do a lot. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a global pull on the exposure just to get a head start on the highlights. And then I'm going to locally adjust everything else. But generally, I'm going to go with a little bit of a low key image because this is overexposed. So was that intentional? Did you dial exposure comp in? Let me see. Oh, you did dial 2/3 of a stop here. Okay. Uh, But I'm gonna go a little bit low key with this image because I just love the greens actually in this image, but most, too many of them are clipped. And what I might do, I might just clip out the whole top part here in a crop. Look, there's some reds in here too. Okay. Good. Now, let me see if I can bring out, just see if I can save some of these highlights in here. Not really. I think that's the best I can do. Maybe we'll leave it. All right. Uh, okay. I'm thinking the water, we can give a little more. Whoops. The water, I'm trying to move the dropper here. The water, we can give it some clear view, pull the blacks in a little more, and push the highlights a tiny bit. Okay. Now the building, let's do control points here. I'm going to start with the windows. Let's just make these a little brighter, clear view and micro contrast. Maybe even give them a little bit of warmth. Do about 500. And I think we're good there. And then I'm going to do another control point just for the whole front of this structure. And we'll push the highlights. Then we'll go to the midtones. Not that much, a little bit in the shadows. Give it a little micro contrast for some details. Okay, now let's touch up some of the forest. So we're going to do just a little bit in here. Let's just do a couple of, let's just brighten this side up a little bit. So I'm going to push it just not that much, about that much. And then we'll make new control points and just highlight a couple of areas. Just some of the greens like that. A little bit of a push, a little warmth. Okay. Maybe try the highlights. No, midtones and tiny bit in the shadows. Okay. Do the same thing over here, maybe. And a bit here. All right. And then let me temper the forest and background a bit more. Let's pull the blacks in. And it's a little bit cool up here. Let's do a control line. Oops, I need to make a new control line. And let's just warm it up again. Okay, good. All right, this building is not bright enough. I need to make it brighter. So, including the reflection, let's just do a linear push. Okay, I think that's it. Uh, let's see where we're at. I'm missing a little bit of the reds here. So let me do, that's kind of what's missing from this image is some of the reds. If I brighten those, I stretch this into the yellows. And just brighten here, here, and here. Probably some reds in here too. I'm gonna tighten the chroma mask. Okay. Is there reds anywhere else? Maybe that. Uh, no, we don't need to do that. How about here? Let's just push the reds a little bit in the water too. And the reds there. Okay. Okay, very nice. How about that? Yeah, that looks good. Okay. All right, I'm done. So let's do that. And when that exports, it'll compare. So compare, reset. It's still a little bit cool in terms of color temperature, my edit, because there's definitely a lot of reds missing. I probably should have shifted the magenta a tiny bit. But yeah, I think this 16 by 9 crop works a lot better by getting rid of this whole top part. This is this is all clipped basically. And if I try to recover it, it's just going to look blotchy. So I just cropped it out altogether, and then just brought in some highlights here and there. Emphasize some of the reds in here because the reds generally they complement the greens very nicely. So I tried to accent some of the reds in the scene that I missed when I was initially editing or when I started editing this photo. But I think that looks pretty good. So if we do a slider, where's the slider at? I lost. Seriously, is that? Yeah, there it is. Gosh, it was so far over, I just barely saw it. So that's the before, and that's the after. I think a little softening might do this image some good too. Um, to do that, just go here. No, where is it? It's over here. Maybe just pull the micro contrast back. Yeah, that looks better. The it had a little bit too much bite for an image like this. While I'm at it, I can just take a little bit of the green, green off. Let me just add 5 or 6 there. Let's export that. And it's probably very hard to tell the difference in the stream, the change in the micro contrast, but uh, if we look at it now, that's the before and that's the after, and I think that works pretty well. Okay, so that was very different from yours. Okay, we'll take a look. Send it in, um, and then let you know if you're successful sending the raw. Okay, Anthony, I'll take a look. Um, so that was a tiger. Let me do one more edit here. And we'll apply basic preset. Uh, okay, we need to bring up the exposure here. The sky is clipped. We can bring some out, but it's really bright here, and it needs to be warmer. Compositionally, there's too much water in the foreground for me, so I'm gonna make a very nice tight crop. I love this castle up here. This needs more light, or this house, whatever it is. So let's look at the. Let's see what a 16 by 9 looks like. That'll get us there. Still a bit too much foreground. 16 by 7. Okay, that's good. That's good right there. And let's see if anything can be done about the sky. Pull the highlights in, clear view. Let's push the blues. Okay, not bad. Not bad. I think that's good. I probably need to warm it up though. I'll warm it up with a different control point or something. I don't necessarily want to warm up the whole sky, just a little bit on the right side. And then let me go back here. I'm gonna brighten the entire image, but I'm gonna have to darken the sky even more. Quite a bit actually. Gosh, over 2 stops. And then we'll go up here globally. And let me just bring the exposure back up. Just in a linear way. Not that. That'll give me a good head start on the uh, working with the lighting in here. Maybe not quite that much, just a little bit more. Okay, about 2/3 of a stop. So I probably just dialed back in what you dialed out, right? You dialed in -3. I dialed back in plus 2/3. But I get why you did that because you wanted to save some of the highlights, but not crush the shadows to black, right? This is an ideal shot for HDR or bracketing, right? Okay, let's add some light here in the places that need it. Like I talked about this house up here. Let's move it over a little bit to the right. And let me just do a quick here, a little bit of clear view. Definitely make it warmer. So it feels like the sun is hitting that. Push the highlights, some the midtones. Okay. Do the same for some of these trees. Let's spread that a little more. And just tighten up the chroma just a bit. Okay. Oh, not that much. There we go. And then how about these buildings here? We'll just push the brightness on these as well. They're clipping tiny bit, but that's okay. What's over there? I don't know. This area needs just a little more light. It's okay. Get a little more light in here. All right, that's looking good. Maybe I got clear view on it. Maybe some micro contrast would help. Yeah. And a slight pull on the blacks. Okay, and these people need a little bit of light. Fortunately, I can use the same control point for a lot of this. And I want to get it. I'm going to accent some of these reds. I tried to do it there. I might have to do a separate one on this area, actually. So let me do that. Uh, there's some flowers here. I'm just going to push them so that they can be seen. Some contrast, touch of clear view, some vibrancy, maybe a little bit of warmth. See if that'll work down here. Just some little accents here and there. The same down in this corner. Okay. Uh, I didn't do a perspective. That's going to jack it up. But that helps a little bit. Let me should have done that first. Let me just tighten this up a little more. Okay. See how we're doing. I think we're good. Let me go back to the sky. It looks a little bit muddy. So it was this control line. Bring it back up a bit. And then let's add a new control point. I don't want to do it over in here. I may not keep this, but I just want to try and warm up this side. That part is clipped, so that's causing me a problem there. Mm, let's tighten up the luma. Okay, it's not great. I don't know, but I like it a little better if it's warmed up there. I'm just toggling this control point on and off. I think I'll keep it. All right, let's export this. Oops. Hold on. Okay. Reset. All right, so yeah, this is the challenge with wide angle lenses, right? Is sometimes you get too much foreground or too much on the top or too much on the bottom when really all you want is what's here, right? I think this is a good example. So this 16 by 7 crop I think works really well. Going into the finer details, you can see how much crisper this image is with the DxO optics module and denoising and all of that stuff. It makes a huge difference. So I will just do a split this way. But there's the before, and the lighting's a little bit flat over here, obviously, because it's in shade. So that's why I'm going to add just some little highlights and speculars on that side, like on the front of this building. So it kind of gives the impression the light is bouncing off of the top of these umbrellas. Um, but I think that looks pretty good. This is a good crop. Now, this decision here to go a little bit warmer in the bottom top right, that was a tough call for me because it doesn't quite work. Maybe it's a little bit too warm, but this is the direction I would go. I would try and separate the tones in the sky even. Since I can't bring it back to all blue, I might as well. I'd rather have a little color than just sort of a blown out look. But I think, yeah, that looks pretty good. So very good. Uh, all right, very good. So thank you, Peter, for that one. And let's see, we have another architectural scene. Hmm. Let me apply a basic preset before I forget. Is this a scan? It almost looks like a scan of a film because of, these blotches up here. But then when I zoom in, there's no film grain. I'm curious, who sent this one? This is John. Okay, John. So yeah, no, I thought it's a scan of a film, but this is weird up here. Like, what are these? I mean, unless it's like an Ectar 100 or slide, it doesn't look like slide film. It's a little bit low contrast for that. I don't know, John. Is this a scan? That can't be because it's a raw image. But it looks like a photo of a slide image. Let me know, John, if that's what this is or not. If you just photographed one of your slides. But okay. Compositionally, this is a tough call because this building here is just so big in the frame. And then we have this landscape and town in the background, which is tiny. I think I'm going to crop but I like the colors here, these reds and blues down here. All right, let me just do an optical or perspective correction because it looks a little bit off. Back it off a little bit. Okay. And then I don't know if a 16 by 9 will work. Maybe just the tilt. Yeah. This kind of works. Oh, let's see. If I get rid of this building on the right, how does this balance? This balance is not great either, but that's the best I can do. Okay. Let's give it some global touches here. Micro contrast, clear view, just a little bit there. And let's do some control lines. I don't know if I can separate this water too well. Let's mask it by luminance. Nope. The color. Tough, 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 tough. Okay, that's not bad. All right. So this John is saying this is a straight shot from the deck of a ship. So that makes sense because I'm not seeing any kind of like film grain, but then I'm getting these. There's very strange artifacts up there in the sky. Okay. All right. So these reds, I want to accentuate these reds a bit, and then I'll get to the blues because the blues are a little more challenging because there's a lot of blue in the water, but I don't want to, you know, change the blues equally on the water and these. So I'm going to start with the reds. Let's see, maybe control point. I wonder if I can just do a global on those reds. Let me try that first because they're kind of scattered about. It's more of an orange, isn't it? But we'll stretch this out to the reds. Let's yeah, that's better. I'll just do a global push on the reds. That way we get some accents out here in the town too. And just a little bit. No, we don't need them to be brighter. Okay, and these very, very deep, rich blues. Let's see. Let's get really tight on that. Just push them a little bit more. And then I'm going to bring out some of the texture on this roof and the front of this building. I can do that with just some control points, I think. I just need to make a little bit tighter luminance. Okay, just do that with some micro contrast. And let me do a global kind of warm up. And I feel like there's some good light coming in from the left. Maybe I can see if I can pick up on that a bit. Oops, not that side, this side. Let's see if I can just push the highlights and just give a little kiss of light like that. Okay, tighten these up. I'm getting a little bit too much bleed into the water. Okay. Let's pull this and give a little bit more in the midtones. And just a kiss of warmth like that. A little bit here on the front of this building. And then tiny bit on the pillars. Some of this rock. Maybe just some kiss of light in the town. All right. I'm going to call it there. Maybe. Let's see. Just a little bit more. What did I do with the water? It was this control line, right? Let's make a new control line right here. Pull the blacks. Okay. All right, now I'm done. So export to disk and compare it side by side. All right, so again, I don't know, like John was saying, that there's kind of a water theme today, but also I'm doing a lot of 16 by 9 or wide crops. But yeah, it was basically about bringing out the contrast in color, right? Because there's a little bit of a fog or mist or haze, and I tried not to hurt it too much in the background. I wanted to keep the haze back here, but I wanted to just sort of separate the lighting because the lighting's very even on the front and side of this building. So I brightened the fronts of the buildings here, punched up the colors on the reds and blues, and then made the water darker. And that's it. And then, try to get some detail out. So let's see how well the detail came out. So if we look at this wood, uh, this boat and some of the rust on it, or not rust, but the board paint peeling away off the fiberglass. I think again, DxO did a great job. You can see how soft this looks versus, now we can see very clearly, there used to be an extension here or a sign, like a signboard right here. And they're remodeling over here. I think that looks great. Okay. All right. What's next here? We have this one. Okay. So apply basic preset. And let's do, I like this. I don't like this pole. I think a vertical crop would work here. I'm gonna have to do some straightening too. Let's try 5 by 4. Just see if there's anything I'm missing. There's nothing over here I need. I like this pole and these flowers, and then of course the path going into this tunnel. I think that's all I care about in this scene. The problem is these shadows. I'm not getting. Okay, these shadows are a problem. Let's see if I can bring back some of the highlights, 'cause these are a little bit too bright. Okay, then we'll do something for the sky. Kind of the same thing. Maybe add some richness there. Then I need to temper this purple or whatever this color is. Hot pink. It's a little bit too strong. So I'm going to just desaturate it a bit. Maybe pull the luminance in. Okay. And globally, this image, the colors are a little bit too rich. So I'm just going to pull the vibrancy back. All right, good. Uh, and then let me separate. Wow, a lot of global edits here. Um, okay, let's do a little bit of a local down in here. Tighten up the luma and chroma just a tad. See if I can temper this just a little bit. All right. Um, Now get a control point for these flowers down here. Just give them a little bit of vibrancy. Same thing with that. And this, and this, and this. Go to the reds, give it a little brightness maybe. No. Okay. I don't know if we need to really get rid of this power line, but let's let's just see. Yeah, that's good. Uh, Back here on the color. Okay. And I just need to temper some of these greens. Not sure how to go about it. Just push the magentas a bit. Maybe let me look at the global white balance. It's just a little bit too yellow. Okay, that feels better. Hmm. Wonder if there's anything in this tunnel. Let me see. Yeah, there's nothing there. Okay. So normally I prefer if there's light coming through the tunnel and everything around it's dark, but this is kind of opposite. Everything is bright and then the tunnel is just pitch black. So I think that's it. So let me export this. Picture was taken in Ireland, Rob. It's very green. Okay, that makes sense. All right, and we'll do a side by side. All right, so it's very, very subtle. Compositionally, there's just nothing going on over here, and I get the idea of maybe trying to get some symmetry or balance, but it's never going to happen because there's so much color over here with this very strong hot pink, and there's nothing here but green and some blues. So I just cut that out and just worked with this left side. Uh, because even though compositionally it might balance, it's never going to balance with in terms of color. So yeah, and there's a lot of weight on this side too. So that's why I went with kind of this vertical. And and then you kind of saw everything else I did. Bring in the sky, work with the saturation and the tones or colors and white balance over in here, and then darken this road because this road is way too bright for the scene. So we just tempered that a little bit, and that's it. Okay, that's all the ones that I downloaded before the stream started. But it looks like there's a bunch more that came in. Like, how did I miss this one? Where's I thought I saw that when I was downloading. Do I got a filter here? That is weird. Let's go ahead and download this. Is that downloading or not? And here. See, it's right here already. I don't know why that's not showing. Okay, I'll figure it out. Yeah, that's where it is originally. I don't see anything new here. Let me refresh. Oh, okay. If I refresh the screen, then I see everything. All right, so this is another one from Paul. So here's one from Anthony. I think this is the one you were asking me if I got it. So I did get it. What is this one? This is the same image. So we don't need this one. This is from Shri, and this is Shri's edit. Okay. Well, this must be from when you guys went to out to the thingamajig. I can't remember the name of it. All right, so I got Shri, I got Anthony, and then Paul's. Or yeah, this is Paul. There's another one here from Paul. This is a JPEG edit. So I'm not sure. I can't do anything with this, but I'll download it. Because astrophotography is I have to get the raw image, clearly. All right, so if I go back here, it's weird. There's nothing there. There's nothing here. Why isn't it showing in here? Oh, okay, let me do this one real quick, and then I'll try and figure out where the other ones are. 'Cause I just downloaded everything. Okay. Ooh, this has got some potential. I don't think I need to change the crop or anything, but I want to bring out this water. It's a long exposure, right? Yeah, 15 seconds. So, yeah, very steady tripod there. Good job. Let me so this is not an easy shot. What's the focal length? 120. So, yeah, this is not an easy shot. Uh, they did a really good job. Meaning you really have to have a very steady tripod is the main thing here. So let's just do a basic preset and see if we can bring out the blues and reds and temper some of the water here. Uh, so let's come down to about here. Do a very tight luma mask and just let's try clear view first and pull the blacks. Might have to just do a linear pull, something like that. And we'll cool it off a bit. Actually, if we want warmer, let me cool it off first. So we're at what, 79? Let's go to 74. Okay. Let's see. That's good. And then we'll do another control line. No, let's use control points. Let's bring this up a bit. So we'll tighten up the luma again. And let's push the highlights, the tones, a little bit on the shadows, definitely some micro contrast. And I want to push the reds in this. So let's do that. What if I stretch this out a bit? The reds are pretty weak. That's okay. Let's warm this up as well. '79. Let's go to 80. Where are we starting? '79. So let's go to about 84. Okay. And that looks good. So let's work with these blues a little bit in here. So we'll do that just right and tighten up the chroma a bit. I'm losing some of the blues though, but that's okay. Let's push the highlights, midtones, pull the blacks in, push the blues. Maybe even, that's a little bit too much, isn't it? Let's back that off a bit. Okay. All right, so here and here, let's add a little bit. Is that new or not? Yeah, that's a new control point. I'm gonna make this a lot warmer. Where are we at? We're at 79. Let's go to 89 and push the highlights and the midtones and shadows slightly. I just want more light on this side. Give it some more warmth. It's making it too red. Some micro contrast. Need to go back. Let me desaturate some of that red. This is interesting though. There are some weird reds there. Must be fungus or something. I'm going to bring it back a little bit. All right. The water is definitely a challenge though. Um, let me see if I can just, if I do a linear pull. I'm exaggerating the exposure so I can see what's getting affected here. Okay. Well, let's just bring this back. Oh, I'm getting some, yeah, I'm getting some really weird artifacts here. Where are they coming from? It's coming from pulling the exposure too much. All right. I think I'm gonna have to go with that. Let's see where we're at. Okay, the blues are not quite where I want them to be. So it was this control point. Okay. Just I'm just trying to see where I'm at. Okay. Overall, I think the white balance needs a global change here, just to be a little warmer. Is this doing anything? No, not really, because this is all kind of clipped. Okay, so we can't do much with the white balance. Why? Where's my color? Let's try vibrant. And then lastly, I need to dial back the reds a little bit. So I'll just do it globally. We'll stretch this out a little bit. Why is this not? Oh, these are not reds. They're more of a purples. Okay, that's better. Something is not right. Why am I not getting? Why is pushing this warmer making it colder? What did I do? This control point, that's fine. We were good where we were. This image needs to be warmer, but I'm having trouble with my colors here. Why? Why is this getting cooler? It's so weird. All right, let me finish here. Export. Something's not right. That should not be happening right there. I don't get it. Uh, okay. Palm Coast. I'm not doing this image justice because I can't get my white balance right. For whatever reason, the slider's not working right. But exposure wise, this is what I want. But color wise, this is still off. I'm not sure why. But all I had to do is really brighten this up and then bring the water down, maybe a stop, right, overall in brightness. And then bring this up a couple of stops here in the middle, just so we can kind of see the details in the texture. And if we go in closer, you can get an idea of the work that DxO is doing with the details. Ooh, there's a tiny bit of motion blur in this shot. Just a tiny bit, looks like. But overall, it's awesome. Awesome shot. I'm sorry about the white balance. I don't get why that's not adjusting properly. If this happens on the next image, I might reboot DxO because it should be able to handle that. All right, let me download this optics module. Oh, this is just for critique and it's a JPEG. No, this is a raw file. But this is another Astro shot, and you're just asking for a critique because you wanted me to critique your edit, which is where I know I downloaded that too. This one, right? Download. Seriously, okay, save. There we go. So I'm just going to critique this one. I'm not going to edit it. Uh, with corrections. Oh wow, okay. So yeah, this is pretty good. Um, I would just make the skies a little bit blacker, right? But you did a really good job maintaining the highlights here. But I would make the skies a little blacker here. This is good. That's about all you can do with a landscape. And yeah, it looks good, Shri. And the white balance is slightly off. It's a little bit warm. So just to do a very quick edit on yours. Uh, let's see if I put this to daylight. No, let's go all the way down. I have to make it a little warmer. I'm sorry, a little cooler. And use a control line on the sky. Come on, where's my control line? There. Tighten up the Luma mask. Make it a little tighter. And then pull the blacks in like this. Let me just back this off a little bit. Make a new control line. Come in here. Very tight mask. Push the highlights and the midtones, the shadows. Add some vibrancy. Saturation. Then a new control line down here with some clear view. Pull on the highlights maybe. And then just a couple of control points for the landscape. Just push the shadows a bit. Add some clear view there and some micro contrast. Go back here and just bring a little bit warmer. Let's export that. So did this my output. Oh, I didn't apply denoising. I was like, why is this still noisy? Reset it. I forgot to apply the optics module. Prime. All right. Export. Okay, did that? Yeah, that's good now. So that's what I would have done. I would have spent more time down here, but the sky being much darker and the corners here, I think make a difference. I might have added a little bit in here too. Um, but there you go. Okay. Let's see. This one I downloaded a bunch of stuff. Where are they? This is a JPEG. So Paul said that to worry about this next week. So I'll do that. I think, right? No problem with the Astro. Send next week. Okay, we'll do that next week. Let's see. I did this one. For whatever reason, that got jacked up. I don't know why. Because there was one from one from Anthony, right? This is the last one. This is a .orf. Let's see. I don't know why that didn't download, but okay, we should have it now. Okay. Wow, what an interesting duck. We're gonna have to crop in tight so we can see all this detail. So let's do a basic preset and let's do a square crop like that. And with the water, it's mostly blue, so we can just do a very tight chroma, a little bit of luma. Okay. Let's just desaturate a tiny bit or pull the vibrancy a little bit. Okay. Go to the blues, make it a little darker this way. Okay, and then for birds, I always do eyes, beak, and talon. So obviously this doesn't have talons, they have webbed feet. But I like to brighten the eyes and make them a little shiny with clear view and micro contrast. So that's good there. You probably use the same one for the beak. That looks good. And then there's just a hint of like yellows or mustard color. I'm gonna exaggerate that. Make a little tighter chroma mask. And let's just try maybe just a push in the yellows and oranges. So we'll spread that out a bit. We'll do that. Okay. And then we just need to temper the highlights a little bit. So I'll do another control point just on some of these highlights. A little bit tighter luma mask. And just bring those in. Okay. And then maybe let's do a little bit of micro contrast on the feathers. I'm not happy with this. Let me take that off. I think what I need is, whoops. What I need here is a new control point for the beak. The beak needs some micro contrast, not highlights and stuff. Maybe a clear view and a slight pull on the highlights. Okay, the eye looks good. These colors look good. Well, the yellows could be maybe a little brighter. Okay, see where we're at. Yep, I think we're good. So let me export this. Well, just for grins, we'll do a little bit of a vignette. Okay, so let's export that. Do compare, right? Yeah. Okay, so here's the original, right? You just need to get a tight crop because this is a really pretty bird or whatever it is. And just temper the highlights and bring out the eye. So let me do a split view. Just a hair soft. Still a bit soft. Let me take this back. Uh wow. Let's delete that. That's weird. That's never popped up before, but okay. Um where's the raw? Let me see if I can fix the sharpening. Let's get a loop out. And what I need to do is probably an unsharp mask. Increase that, maybe slide this up. Yeah, it's not really doing much there. To add an unsharp masking, push this out a bit. There we go. There and there. That looks good. Just the threshold. And then let's temper the highlights a bit more. Okay, let me check my loop. Okay, that should help a tiny, tiny bit. But I think now that I see the picture, I see why you were doing 1/5000th of a second. Because this is in the water. This looks like deep water. So I'm guessing you were on a boat, but you're at such a low angle, questionable if you're on a boat. But this is definitely deep water, feels like. Uh, and yeah, this is a great shot. So let's see how this came out with those minor tweaks. But yeah, this is it looks like it was windy too, way the water's all rippled. So I understand 1/5000th. I get that. Uh, I was thinking of like the mallards that were sitting on the corner on in the earlier picture. You know, you don't need 1/5000th of a second for ducks if they're just kind of sitting around. But this makes sense. Okay, so we did that compared to the output, reset, and do a side by side. Oh yeah, that helped. You're not gonna be able to see this on the live stream, but those little tweaks I made to the unsharp mask definitely brought out some of the details better on this duck. I think it made a huge difference. I think that looks a lot better. Um, yeah, great shot. Look at the water. I loved how the water came out, almost like a painting rather than a photo on that little part of the water. But I like it. So if we do a split view like this, it's not perfect. I don't think I can line these up. Maybe a little bit. But yeah, that came out great. That was a lot better. With just a little bit of tweak on the unsharp mask. Okay, I think that's it. I don't think I missed anything. Let me just eyeball the ones that came in. Yeah, I got all of these. I know Marcel edited one of my photos. I think, yeah, I talked about these last week. Okay. Uh, that's it. So, any other questions or anything like that? Let me open up the chat window so I can see some of the newest posts here. So I use a little trick in Luminar Neo where you can put a single image through HDR processing and it recovers the highlights. Interesting. I've seen that in Lightroom, but I've never used it in Luminar. It's called like single image HDR or something. Maybe it's not Lightroom, but I used to do that in something. But I'm familiar with that particular feature. And Errol says, think DxO Photolab is way better than Adobe, isn't it? I like it. Didn't know it was that good. I just bought Photomator. Okay, I don't know what Photomator is, but Photolab is awesome. Yeah, I love Photolab. The picture was taken in Ireland. Yeah, I saw that one. And no problem with the Astro image. I'll send it next week. Yeah, send me a raw image. I need to get better at Astro anyway. So yeah, I'll probably be getting more because it's kind of like wide field Astro kind of summer, right? And the reason for the high shutter speed was the duck swimming in surf, 1/2000 might, yeah, which would allow me. Yep, yep. I'm totally with you on that, Anthony. Now that I see where the duck is and the way the water is, looks really windy too. And looks like the theme is fog and water. Yeah. And it says, thanks, Rob. I always trouble with the control line. Yeah, work with the chroma and luma sliders with Astro and get a feel for the lighting and colors, and then you can really pull out some nice distinction between the Milky Way because you really can't even in a dark sky, it's hard to see the Milky Way, right? It's very, very faint. So we have to exaggerate, a lot in post processing. And so we'll post on your Flickr community a cool volcano smoking shot from, oh, okay, awesome. Took with my S23 Samsung cell. Okay, I'll take a look at it. I'll take a look at it. Thanks for sharing that. And was lying on the beach, shooting from the shore. The water. Okay, so yeah, I figured you were kind of low, right? That's why I was like, initially I thought maybe you were out, like that looks like the ocean, like you're out on a boat. And then when I saw the angle, I was like, there's no way you're on a boat at that low of an angle. So that makes sense. Let's see. I've sent my edit for you to compare. Okay, Paul. I'll take a look again. And photo taken in Cape Onion, Newfoundland. Nice. That was a really interesting bird. So where's your edit? I'm trying to remember what your picture was. This one. Ah, wow, that is different, isn't it? You went very, very warm. Let's see what mine was. Uh, where's my edit? Is this? Yeah, this was my edit. Well, you guys are not seeing my screen. Give me a second. Download. Let's just do a quick comparison. Because a lot of times I like your guys' edits better than my own. Use image as reference. Then, okay. So yeah, Paul's edit on the right. This was my edit on the left. So I went with a much cooler sort of, I don't know, more Twilight vibe. It's not the right word. Okay. Very, very different edits on the same picture, but they both look good, I think. Yep. Both are very nice. I like your edit too. Just a very different take on the same scene, right? All right. Where'd my chat go? Okay, and Anthony says, you're improving photography a lot. I was wondering if you can improve feather detail. Thanks for trying to edit my photo. I was seriously should just consider getting Photolab 8. Yeah, I don't know what you're using now, but unsharp mask is a very common tool. It's like in every photo editor. It's the denoising and the optical corrections that make a big difference with DxO Photolab. So that combined with, you know, the normal tools you get with like unsharp mask and, you know, uh, white balance, those standard tools you get in every photo editor is what really makes the image pop for me. So that's why I love Photolab 8. And all the DxO products are really nice. So that's why Monday I'm going to do something on Monday special. So stay tuned for that for DxO products. Uh, and I'll be back on Sunday for a normal photo chat live stream. But that's it for today. Thanks so much for sending your images in. It was a little bit of a long one today, but that was a pretty awesome set of images. Uh, it was a lot of fun editing, and I appreciate that. And hopefully, it was helpful in some way for you guys as well. And if you'd like to support the live streams, I take memberships and donations, all the usual things that you can do to support your favorite influencer, YouTuber, creator online. I do those things. So thanks so much for that. And I'll see you back on Sunday, God willing.